Let me tell you something about dreams. They're fragile things. One moment, they're glowing like a neon sign on Market Street, and the next, they shatter under the weight of someone else's greed. I'm Ethan Cole, and for years, I believed in the dream of Cole and Hartman Marketing. It wasn't just a business. It was my life's work. My partners, Daniel Hartman and Victoria Sterling, were supposed to be family. We grew up together in small-town Ohio, dreaming of Silicon Valley stardom. But somewhere along the way, our paths diverged. Daniel became obsessed with the bottom line. Victoria turned into a corporate shark. And I stayed naive enough to think success didn't have to come at the expense of integrity. I remember the day we landed our first big client, a tech startup called Nexera. I spent weeks crafting their campaign, pouring my heart into every detail. When they signed with us, I felt invincible. But now, looking back, that win was the beginning of the end. Because as much as I loved building the company, Daniel and Victoria loved controlling it. And control meant leaving no room for idealists like me. Things started feeling off about 6 months ago. Late nights at the office weren't unusual, but lately I noticed strange emails disappearing from my inbox. Little things, like meeting notes or financial reports, would vanish without explanation. At first, I thought it was a glitch, but then I overheard Victoria whispering to Daniel in the break room. "He's too soft," she said. "We can't let him ruin this." That night, I couldn't sleep. I grabbed a beer and scrolled through our internal systems, searching for anything out of place. That's when I found it. An offshore account tied to one of our shell companies. Millions of dollars funneled out Cole and Hartman, straight into accounts I'd never authorized. My stomach churned. Was this why Daniel had been pushing so hard for the IPO? Was this how they planned to cash out while leaving the rest of us holding the bag? The next morning, I confronted Daniel. He laughed it off, called me paranoid. "You've been working too hard, Ethan," he said, patting me on the shoulder like I was some clueless kid. But his eyes told a different story. They were cold, calculating. For the first time, I realized I didn't know the man standing in front of me. A week later, disaster struck. Our server crashed during a major pitch presentation, leaking sensitive client data all over the internet. Clients panicked, and fingers pointed straight at me. Victoria called an emergency meeting, her voice dripping with full concern. "Ethan, what happened?" she asked, even though I could see the smirk tugging at the corners of her mouth. Before I could respond, Daniel chimed in. "It's not the first time. Vic, remember that breach last quarter?" Ethan swore it wouldn't happen again. I wanted to scream, to tell them I hadn't touched the servers in weeks. But the evidence stacked against me, an email trail linking my login to the breach. Someone had framed me, and whoever it was knew exactly how to make it stick. By the time the board meeting rolled around, I knew I was fighting a losing battle. Daniel and Victoria came prepared, armed with charts and graphs detailing my mismanagement. They painted me as a liability, a loose cannon who couldn't keep up with the demands of running a multi-million-dollar company. When it was my turn to speak, I tried to reason with them. "This isn't about me," I said, my voice trembling. "There's something bigger going on here. Someone's using us to launder money." But my words fell on deaf ears. The vote was unanimous. I was out. Just like that, the company I'd poured my soul into was ripped away from me. As I packed up my desk, I caught Sophia Marchetti watching me from across the room. Her expression said it all. She knew I was innocent. Getting fired was humiliating, but losing my clients hurt even more. Or so I thought. The day after my ousting, Sophia showed up at my apartment with a bottle of wine and a proposition. "Start your own agency," she said. "Take me with you, and I'll bring my network." Her confidence gave me hope. Within weeks, I launched Horizon Strategies. It was small at first, just me, Sophia, and a couple freelancers. But we hit the ground running. Word spread quickly among former Cole and Hartman clients, and soon I had a roster of high-profile names. For the first time in months, I felt alive again. Horizon wasn't just a business. It was a chance to prove that success didn't have to come at the cost of ethics. But deep down, I knew Daniel and Victoria wouldn't let me walk away that easily. Sure enough, they struck back. A cease and desist letter arrived, accusing me of poaching clients. Daniel smirked during a CNN interview, calling me a thief who couldn't succeed on my own. Meanwhile, Victoria leaked rumors about my alleged mental instability, trying to scare off potential investors. But they underestimated Sophia and me. Together, we dug deeper into Cole and Hartman's finances, uncovering proof of their offshore scheme. With Clara Muller, a sharp-tongued lawyer who seemed to know more than she let on, by my side, I filed a countersuit. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about exposing the truth. And trust me, the truth was uglier than I ever imagined. Clara Muller wasn't like any lawyer I'd ever met. She didn't waste time with pleasantries or sugarcoat the truth. The first time we met, she leaned across the table in her sleek downtown office, her piercing green eyes locking onto mine. "You're in over your head, Ethan," she said bluntly. "This isn't just about Daniel and Victoria. Someone bigger is pulling their strings." I wanted to argue, to tell her she was wrong, but something in her tone made me pause. She slid a folder across the desk. Inside were documents linking Cole and Hartman to Vanguard Holdings, a shadowy conglomerate based in Zurich. Names I didn't recognize filled the pages, but one stood out: Lars Muller, Clara's brother. "He's laundering money through your old company," Clara explained, "and he won't stop until you're silenced or worse." Her words hit me like a freight train. Suddenly, everything clicked. The offshore accounts, the smear campaign, the cease and desist letters. This wasn't personal, it was business. And I was standing in the way of something much bigger than I'd realized. As Horizon strategies grew, so did the pressure. Every morning, I woke up to new threats, emails from anonymous senders warning me to back off, calls from former colleagues urging me to settle. It felt like the walls were closing in. But then Ravi showed up. Ravi Patel was a wiry, unassuming guy who looked more like a grad student than a hacker. He introduced himself as an old acquaintance of Clara's and handed me a flash drive. "This might help," he said cryptically before disappearing into foggy San Francisco night. When I opened the files, my jaw dropped. They contained transcripts of private conversations between Daniel, Victoria, and Lars. There was even audio of Lars bragging about how easy it had been to manipulate them. "They think they're running the show," he sneered, "but they're just pawns." For the first time, I had concrete proof. But as satisfying as it was to hold the evidence in my hands, I couldn't shake the feeling that this fight was far from over. Just when I thought things couldn't get more complicated, Mira walked back into my life. My ex-wife, the woman who'd broken my heart 3 years ago when she left for Europe without so much as a goodbye. Seeing her now, sitting in my tiny office at Horizon Strategies, brought back a flood of emotions I wasn't ready to face. "I heard what happened," she said softly. Her accent still carried traces of Italian, even after all these years living abroad. "Ethan, you need to be careful. Lars isn't playing games." At first, I didn't trust her. Why would she suddenly care about my safety? But then she pulled out a file of her own, documents showing her employment history at Vanguard Holdings. "I've been feeding information to Clara," she admitted. "She's not just a lawyer. She's Interpol." My head spun. Mira working undercover? It sounded insane. But looking into her eyes, I saw the same fierce determination that had always drawn me to her. Whether I liked it or not, she was part of this mess. And maybe, just maybe, she could help me fix it. With Myra's intel and Ravi's hacking skills, we pieced together the full picture. Lars Muller wasn't just laundering money through Cole and Hartman. He was using the company as a front for political bribes, funneling millions to corrupt officials across Europe. If we expose him, it wouldn't just destroy Cole and Hartman. It would bring down an entire criminal empire. But Henrik Voss, Vanguard's ruthless CEO, wasn't about to let that happen. One evening, as I was leaving the office, a black SUV pulled up beside me. A man in a suit stepped out, his voice low and menacing. "Mr. Cole, Mr. Voss sends his regards. Drop the lawsuit, or Ms. Muller will regret it." I froze. Mira, they knew about her involvement. Panic surged through me, but I forced myself to stay calm. "Tell Henrik I'm not afraid of him," I said, though my knees were shaking. That night, I called Mira. "You need to leave town," I told her. "It's not safe here." She laughed bitterly. Running won't solve anything, Ethan. We have to finish this together. Her words stayed with me long after we hung up. For the first time since starting Horizon, I felt truly scared, but also alive, because deep down, I knew she was right. This wasn't just my fight anymore. It was ours. I couldn't stop thinking about Henrik Voss. His name echoed in my mind like a storm warning, a reminder that I was playing with fire. But when Lars Muller cornered me at a charity gala later that week, I realized just how close to the flames I really was. The event was supposed to be a networking opportunity for Horizon Strategies, a chance to rub elbows with San Francisco's elite. Instead, it turned into a showdown. Lars found me near the bar, his polished smile hiding the venom beneath. "You've caused quite the stir, Ethan," he said, handing me a glass of champagne I didn't ask for. "I'm not the one laundering money." I shot back, keeping my voice low but firm. He chuckled, sipping his drink as if we were discussing the weather. "You think you're fighting them? Cole and Hartman? You're fighting me. And let's be honest, you don't stand a chance." His confidence unnerved me, but I refused to show it. "We'll see about that." Lars leaned closer, his tone turning icy. "You should have walked away while you still could. Now, well, let's just say your friends might start disappearing." My blood ran cold. Friends like Mira, like Sophia, like Clara. I clenched my fists, resisting the urge to punch him right there. Instead, I forced a smirk. "Careful, Lars. Underestimating me is what got you into this mess." His laughter followed me as I stormed out of the room. But inside, I was trembling. This wasn't just business anymore, it was war. The next morning, I arrived at Clara's office expecting another strategy session. Instead, I found her handcuffed and being led away by two stern-looking men in suits. My heart sank. "What's going on?" I demanded, stepping forward. One of the agents turned to me. "Ms. Muller is under arrest for hacking Vanguard holding servers." Before I could protest, Clara shot me a look that silenced me instantly. "Don't argue, Ethan," she said sharply. "Just keep digging. Trust no one." As they dragged her out, I felt a surge of guilt and anger. She'd risked everything to help me, and now she was paying the price. But her parting words stuck with me. Trust no one. Did she mean Lars? Henrik? Or someone closer to home? Later that day, Ravi called with an update. "Clara's not just Interpol," he said grimly. "She's undercover. Her real mission has nothing to do with you or Horizon. She's been tracking Lars for years." My head spun. So Clara hadn't been helping me out of kindness. She had her own agenda. But did that make her any less trustworthy? I didn't know anymore. All I knew was that without her, I was on my own. Sophia Marchetti saved me from spiraling into despair. Late one night, she burst into my apartment, clutching a leather-bound ledger. "I found this in Daniel's briefcase," she said breathlessly. "It proves he and Victoria knew about the laundering all along." The pages were filled with incriminating details, transactions, dates, even notes scribbled in Daniel's handwriting. "They're dead," Sophia muttered, flipping to the entries. "If this gets out, their careers are over." But I hesitated. Publishing the ledger would destroy Daniel and Victoria, but it wouldn't touch Lars or Henrik. Still, it was leverage, and I needed every weapon I could get. The next day, I leaked the ledger to the Wall Street Journal. By evening, the story had gone viral. Clients fled Cole and Hartman in droves, and the stock price plummeted. For the first time, I saw cracks in Lars's armor. Henrik wasted no time retaliating. That same night, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. When I answered, his voice came through, calm and chilling. "Mr. Cole, I admire your persistence. But let's be clear. Continue this crusade and Ms. Muller dies." I froze, my grip tightening on the phone. "Mira," he meant Mira. "Leave her out of this." I growled. "I'm afraid that's not possible," Henrik replied smoothly. "She made her choice when she sided with you. Now you must make yours. Back down or watch her bleed." The line went dead. My chest tightened as panic set in. Mira had sacrificed so much of me. For us, could I really put her life on the line again? But then I remembered something she once told me. Love is worth fighting for. And damn it, I still loved her. Daniel and Victoria's partnership imploded almost overnight. With their names splashed across headlines, they turned on each other like rabid dogs. I watched from afar as Daniel accused Victoria of orchestrating the laundering scheme, while she fired back, blaming him for bringing Lars into the company. Their feud culminated in a shouting match outside Cole and Hartman's headquarters. Reporters swarmed them, cameras flashing as they hurled insults loud enough for half of San Francisco to hear. "You ruined everything," Daniel screamed, his face red with rage. "You're the idiot who trusted Lars." Victoria spat back, tears streaming down her cheeks. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for them. Almost. They brought this on themselves by choosing greed over integrity. But as I stood there, watching their empire crumble, I realized something important. They weren't the villains. They were pawns, just like me. The real enemy was still out there. The trial against Lars Muller finally arrived, and with it came a sense of uneasy anticipation. Clara had been released temporarily to testify, her presence sending shockwaves through the courtroom. As she recounted years of corruption and deceit, Lars sat stone-faced, his lawyer whispering furiously in his ear. But halfway through proceedings, Ravi texted me. "They're coming for you. Henrik's men are outside." Panic surged through me. I glanced around the crowded courthouse, searching for signs of danger. Then I spotted them. 3 men in dark suits lingering near the exit. "We need to move," I whispered to Clara. She nodded, grabbing my arm. "Follow me." Together, we slipped out a side door, narrowly avoiding Henrik's goons. Outside, chaos erupted as reporters chased after us, shouting questions. But I barely noticed. All I could think about was survival and finishing what we'd started, because this wasn't over yet. Not by a long shot. The courtroom was tense, a powder keg waiting to explode. Clara's testimony had been damning, every word dripping with evidence of Lars Muller's crimes. But as the jury filed back in, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Henrik Voss hadn't shown his face since the courthouse ambush, and that silence worried me more than any threat. When the foreman stood to deliver the verdict, my heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. "Guilty on all counts," he announced, his voice echoing through the packed room. Chaos erupted. Reporters scrambled for their cameras. Lawyers shouted objections, and Lars sat frozen, his massive arrogance finally cracking. For a brief moment, I allowed myself to feel relief. We'd won. Justice had prevailed. But then Clara leaned over, her expression grim. "This isn't the end," she whispered. "Henrik's still out there." Her words sent a chill down my spine. Winning the trial didn't mean we were safe. It meant we were targets. That night, Mira showed up at my apartment unannounced. She looked exhausted, her usually immaculate appearance replaced by dark circles under her eyes and a nervous energy I'd never seen before. Without a word, she handed me an envelope. Inside was a dossier detailing Henrik Voss's entire operation. Bank accounts, shell companies, even names of politicians on his payroll. It was everything we needed to take him down. "I'm leaving," she said quietly, avoiding my gaze. "This is my goodbye." "What? No." I grabbed her arm, desperation clawing at my throat. "You can't just walk away after everything we've been through." She turned to face me, tears welling in her eyes. "Ethan, don't you see? This is what I've been working toward all along. I owed you this, to protect you, to make things right. But if I stay, Henrik will kill us both." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I wanted to argue, to beg her to stay, but deep down, I knew she was right. Loving Mira had always come with risks, but letting her go felt unbearable. "Promise me you'll be careful," I said, my voice breaking. She smiled sadly, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "Always." And then she was gone, slipping into the night like a ghost. With Henrik exposed and Lars behind bars, Horizon Strategies soared to new heights. Sophia and I worked tirelessly, rebuilding not just our client base, but also our reputation. The media dubbed us the ethical alternative to Cole and Hartman, and investors poured in faster than we could handle. By the time we hit unicorn status, a valuation of over $1 billion, I barely recognized the company I'd started in my tiny office. Sophia became COO, her bold leadership style complementing my idealism perfectly. Together, we proved that success didn't have to come at the expense of integrity. But despite the accolades, part of me still felt hollow. Every time I walked into Horizon's sleek new headquarters, I expected to see Mira waiting for me. Her absence was a constant reminder of the cost of victory. One rainy afternoon, Daniel showed up at my office. He looked nothing like the confident, manipulative man I'd once known. His suit was wrinkled, his hair unkempt, and his eyes carried the weight of someone who'd lost everything. "I'm sorry," he said simply, sitting across from me without waiting for an invitation. For a long moment, I just stared at him, unsure how to respond. Part of me wanted to lash out, to remind him of every betrayal, every lie. But another part, the part that remembered the boy we used to be, felt a pang of sympathy. "You chose your side, Daniel," I said finally, my tone cold but not cruel. "I can't forgive you for that." He nodded, accepting my judgment without protest. "I don't expect you to. I just needed to say it." When he left, I found myself staring at the door for a long time. Forgiveness wasn't easy, especially when trust had been shattered beyond repair. But maybe someday I'd find peace. Victoria didn't get off as easily as Daniel. After the trial, she tried to start her own agency, but no one trusted her anymore. Rumors of her involvement in the laundering scheme followed her everywhere, tarnishing her name and destroying her credibility. I ran into her once at a tech conference. She looked older, harder, her sharp edges dulled by failure. When our eyes met, she hesitated, then approached me cautiously. "I hear Horizon's doing well," she said, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "It is," I replied flatly. She sighed, glancing around the crowded room. "I guess karma really does exist." Before I could respond, she walked away, disappearing into crowd. Watching her go, I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and sadness. Victoria had made her choices, and now she was living with the consequences. Weeks after the trial, I received a letter from Clara. It was handwritten, a rarity in this digital age, and her sharp, angular script filled the page with urgency. "Ethan," it began, "Vanguard wasn't a mastermind. Look closer." The word sent a jolt through me. What did she mean? Lars and Henrik had been exposed, their empire dismantled. Who else could be pulling strings behind the scenes? Clara's note ended cryptically. "Sometimes the greatest betrayals come from those we trust most." I stared at the letter for hours, turning her words over in my mind. Was she talking about Daniel, Victoria, or someone closer to home, someone like Mira? Then it hit me. The dossier Mira had given me before disappearing. If she'd known so much about Henrik's operation, how had she gotten that information? And why had she chosen now, of all times, to walk away? My stomach churned as doubt crept in. Had Mira been playing me all along, determined to uncover the truth? I dug deeper into the dossier Mira had left behind. At first glance, it seemed like a straightforward expose of Henrik's crimes. But buried within the pages was something I hadn't noticed before, a series of transactions linking Mira directly to Vanguard Holdings. My hands trembled as I pieced it together. Mira hadn't just been feeding Clara intel. She'd been orchestrating Lars's downfall from the start. Every move, every twist in the saga had been part of her plan. Her betrayal 3 years ago hadn't been an act of selfishness. It was a cover. She'd embedded herself in Vanguard to gather evidence, using her position to dismantle Henrik's empire piece by piece. And when the time came, she'd sacrificed everything, including us, to see it through. Suddenly, her goodbye made sense. She hadn't walked away because she was afraid of Henrik. She'd walk away because her mission was complete. I visited her empty apartment one last time, searching for answers. On the kitchen counter, I found a photograph of us together, taken during happier days. On the back, she'd written, "Love is the ultimate strategy." Tears blurred my vision as I realized the depth of her sacrifice. Mira hadn't betrayed me. She'd saved me. Months later, I stood on the rooftop of Horizon Strategies headquarters, watching the sun rise over San Francisco. The city sparkled below, a testament to resilience and reinvention. Horizon had acquired Cole and Hartman, not out of vengeance, but as a way to rebuild what had been broken. Daniel worked quietly in a mid-level role, his arrogance replaced by humility. Victoria, unable to recover from her fall from grace, faded into obscurity. As for Mira, I never saw her again, but I felt her presence everywhere, in the choices I made, in the values I instilled in Horizon, in the quiet moments when I allowed myself to remember what we'd shared. The media hailed Horizon's success as a triumph of ethics over greed, but I knew better. This victory belonged to Mira, to her courage, her brilliance, her love. Without her, none of this would have been possible. On the day of the acquisition, a headline appeared in the Wall Street Journal. Horizon Strategies acquires Cole and Hartman. A new era begins. Beneath it was a quote attributed to me. Success isn't measured by power or profit. It's measured by the lives we touch and the legacy we leave behind. It wasn't my quote. It was Myra's. But as I read it, I smiled, knowing she'd always be with me, guiding me forward. And somewhere, far away, I hoped she was smiling too,